Foot in the Door follows creatives on their journey in their industry. From bright leaps forwards to the frequent steps backwards, these stories are underpinned by the music which has guided our guests on their career path so far. Join me and my guests on Melodic Distraction every fourth Sunday of the month to get a behind-the-scenes insight into their lives. Follow in the footsteps of the people who are already doing it with Foot in the Door. Hello, and welcome back to Foot in the Door with me, Jobi. I'm super excited for this month's show to be joined by content creator, host of the amazing Here for the Crack podcast, fashion marketing student, professional makeup artist, and one of Belfast's biggest yoga enthusiasts. It's Neill.
Wow.
Hey, how's it going? You good?
What an intro.
Yeah, man. How many job titles do you have on your CV?
I know,
crazy.
it's never ending at this point.
I know. I mean, during the show, I think we'll be talking a lot about your multifaceted career. Just from that intro alone, there's so much going on. I kind of want to touch on like why manifesting that sort of main character energy and that positive energy is good for like motivation, as well as like how you use your platform to be honest and open and encourage other people to do the same. But before we get into all of that, how are you? How have you been?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, you know.
It's great to be in Liverpool. I feel like I haven't been here in so long.
Yeah, me. Well, I've not. Yeah, when was the last time you were here? Maybe
Probably a good 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then before that was when I came to university here for the short stint.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was a long time ago. I feel like a lot's changed in Liverpool since you were here.
Yeah, it really has. It's a cool city.
Yeah, it is a fantastic city.
Yeah.
We had a good night out last night.
We did.
Yeah.
We went to Murray and Bold Street.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Gorgeous food.
Yeah.
And a couple of bars.
Yeah, hit up the Red Lion, the old faithful.
Mm-hmm.
But firstly, before we get into sort of the meat and potatoes of the interview, I wanted to congratulate you on a fantastic achievement, a milestone in your career, your billboard in Leicester Square. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a huge shock to me, to be honest. I had no idea it was happening. I got a message from someone on the Thursday morning with a picture of it up in Leicester Square. And I was like, what? What is this? Is this photoshopped? I literally was gobsmacked.
Yeah.
I was on emails. I was telling my manager. I was trying to get sussed out. Like, how long is this going to be there? Why did I not know about it? And I hopped on a train to London and went down to see it. And Spotify had very kindly put up my podcast cover art like on a huge billboard in Leicester Square in London, Cardiff, Glasgow and Dublin.
That is amazing.
I know, it's crazy.
I'm kind of gobsmacked that that's happened already in your career. Like that's an incredible achievement. And I guess, how have you got to the stage? So let's go back to it. So you've got a podcast.
I do.
You're a professional makeup artist.
I am.
You're a content creator for TikTok and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And you also, I vaguely remember when we first met and you came to my room with Tammy and all of our friends in the student house, and you were making YouTube videos. And
I was making YouTube videos?
Yeah.
Oh, was I?
You were making vlogs. So,
really?
Yeah, I think so. Is that where...
I think I had a little stint of trying to do some YouTube videos back in the day.
Yeah.
I think it was boredom.
Okay.
More than anything. I think I was like just trying to live my best life in Belfast at the time. And I'd like come back and started training as a makeup artist. And I was like, maybe I'll just start vlogging for my own entertainment. But those videos have been made, I think, either deleted or made private a long time ago.
So how did it all start? Like, how do you get your foot in the door with making a podcast, becoming a content creator? Where did it all...
So for me, it definitely started with doing makeup. It was kind of a bit of an ongoing joke within our friend group, like Tommy will tell you as well. They in my yearbook school photo under it said Neill, MUA, like they'd take the piss out of how I used to treat my Instagram like I was a makeup artist. And like when we would go on holiday, like when we did our girls trip after sixth form and went into railing, they'd all be fighting over whose makeup I'd do every night. And I was like, right, I can't do everyone's makeup every night. You need to pick one person each time. So it kind of snowballed. Like once I dropped out of, obviously I mentioned there I came to University of Liverpool to study mathematics. I ended up dropping out after 2 months and then decided I was going to train to be a makeup artist.
Right.
And it kind of just started from there. Like I was just doing all my makeup looks, posting them on Instagram. I was working for a studio/salon thing. And I would be posting for them and creating content for them at the time. This was like before Reels or TikTok was a thing. This was kind of just when you were doing like Instagram, feed posts and Instagram stories. That was like the big thing at the time.
Right.
I was that melter with a 10-minute long story on Instagram every day. And then I think I was like, I was really reluctant to get on the whole TikTok bandwagon because I just saw it as a really Gen Z thing, and I thought it was quite cringy. Everyone just like doing dances and stuff. And yeah, I was just like that person that just turned their nose up at it and was like refusing to get on board. But then after a while, and everyone being like, you need to get on it, like with your makeup and everything, you can do so well. I was like, okay, maybe I'm convinced. So I did. And what I actually found with it was such a nice way to engage with my audience in a way I'd never been able to before. Like up until that point, all I'd been doing was just posting my makeup photos and makeup tutorials. And now all of a sudden I was like able to share my life in a way and like talk to my audience in a way that I never really felt like I could on Instagram. Like it was just a lot less kind of curated and not as aesthetic, I guess you could say TikTok is. And it just kind of opened up a lot of doors. I was able to do more content that revolved around like all my different passions, so like cooking and fashion and just like anything. And then I was like, you know what, I feel like this is really my thing and I love connecting my audience with this. How can I kind of do it more? And this was kind of when podcasting was very new. Like at the time I was loving listening to them, but it was really hard to find podcasts that you liked. Like I would literally had like 2 that I liked, and I'd be waiting each week for them to come out, and didn't have any others to fill the time that I wanted to listen to podcasts then. And so I thought maybe I'll just do a podcast. It was a hungover. Do you ever get when you're like in a hungover delirious state? Yeah. And you think you just come up with random ideas and you think it's the best idea.
Kind of like
ever.
A shower thought, but slightly more loose.
And I remember it so clearly. I was hungover in my kitchen with my mum and dad, and I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. And they were just like, yeah, okay. And within the week, I got it all set up, started the podcast. I brainstormed a few different names and kind of let them sit with me for the week until I decided what stuck the best. That's how I came up with Here for the Crack. And I just kind of downloaded all the free software. I was just YouTubing everything, like how you do this for free. Yeah. I originally borrowed a mic from my mum. You know, when everyone started working from home and companies kind of sent you all this equipment to work from home. So she had this mic and she was like, why don't you give it a go? I used it for one episode, but then I ended up ordering a new one because I thought it was a bit,
I mean, that's your main part is the audio, isn't it? So.
And it kind of, I just ended up finding I had such a passion for it. I just loved it, and I've kind of never looked back since. It's never been a thing that I would envision not doing now. Do you know what I mean?
So it's just part of your life now.
Yeah.
And Here for the Crack is successful, and we will talk a bit more about the content and sort of how you manage the podcast later on. But that's just one of the plates that you're spinning at the minute. You're doing a fashion marketing degree. You're about to finish, aren't you? Yeah,
I'm in my last term of my fashion marketing degree in Leeds.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting. I obviously started that in the middle of COVID. First year, I pretty much just spent the whole time at home. It was all online. This is like kind of the only year it's all been in Leeds, which has been nice. And yeah, I'm kind of doing that on the side of all my other things.
So how are you managing the content creation, Instagram, TikTok, podcast, which takes a lot of work to plan.
Yeah.
And then also alongside your degree, which is a full-time commitment as well.
Yeah, it's a lot. I feel like I've had to make a few sacrifices. Yeah. The social life has gone out the window slightly. I'm just like, organisation has just had to become my bread and butter just in order for me to make everything happen. You should see my Apple calendars. I'm just like a proper psycho about it. Have to have everything organised in advance. But I think because it's stuff I love to do and things I love to talk about, and I have a real drive for it, so it kind of, it doesn't always feel, it feels like work in terms of like you're putting in the hours and the work behind it, but I love it at the end of the day, so.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I guess that kind of leads us on to the first song that you've chosen, which I think kind of, in some way, describes the pain of being very busy, but getting something out of it.
Yeah.
You picked the Fugees' "Killing Me Softly." Can you tell me a little bit why?
I'm obsessed with this song. It's one of those songs that could come on anytime, any day, any mood, and I will always sing along to it till my heart's content.
Okay, well, it's a fantastic choice. Here we go. What a tune. Fantastic.
Banger.
Yeah, it is. Proper head bopping in the studio then. So we talked a little bit about the different things that you've got going on. Well, the like hundreds of things that you've got going on all the different plates you're spinning. I just wanted to ask a question about sort of how this is enabled. You are obviously very successful on Instagram and TikTok. You got 58,000 followers on Instagram. How many on TikTok?
I think it's around the 130,000 mark.
Right, so that is a crazy amount of people. Do you feel that that amount of followers enables you to have the career that you do, or is the career that you have worked for, has that helped to build that following?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so I started the podcast just over 2 years ago.
Right.
And I think 2 years ago when I started, I definitely didn't have that same following. I think I'd only been on TikTok for a few months at that point. And I definitely probably had like half the following on Instagram. So it's kind of like grown together, you know, it's kind of, I see it as like one whole brand, I guess you could say, where it's all, I use both platforms for promotional reasons for the podcast, and then likewise I use it vice versa. So yeah, I guess my audience has grown with me, and it's really nice to see. Yeah,
it's amazing. You've definitely built a community of people. I mean, only yesterday we were in Liverpool and someone came up to you when we were in the pub asking about the podcast.
Yeah.
Which is surreal.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And it's always so nice because I feel like my listeners, like, they don't come up to me in a really, not that there's anything wrong with people coming up and being like, and just saying, can I have a photo?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. If people want their photo, they can get their photo, of course. But I feel like my listeners are always so nice. Like, they always come up and they say the kindest things, and they're like, you really helped me with this or that. And it's just always such a really wholesome experience meeting them.
That's amazing. And having the ability to reach so many different people, that could come with a little bit of pressure, maybe, to say the right things, to put the right message out. But do you think you have any pressure on you to do that, or are you just being yourself?
I mean, yeah, I think to an extent there always is a bit of a pressure of like saying the right thing. But at the same time, you've got to be authentic and be yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting that balance, definitely. And I think a lot of the time you want to be impulsive and like talk about something when it's happening and or a certain topic that's going on in your life, and sometimes you just need to take a step back and be like, okay, what's the best scenario, or what's the best way for me to talk about this? Will I have calmed down in a week's time and be able to talk about it from a better perspective then? So it's just recognizing when is right to talk about things, I think, as well.
For sure. I think emotions running high, and then recording a podcast and then it's eternalized on audio is never a good idea. So we spoke about, like, again, the many plates you're spinning, and we are in an age now where we are sort of made to feel like productivity is really important and it is a benchmark for success. Especially on social media, things like girl boss energy, you know, even things like the gym routines and the pressure that we're putting on each other to work out all the time.
Yeah.
Do you see that pressure coming onto you as someone that is so productive? Do you need to like exude that energy online? Do you need to appear to be productive, or is that just something that you enjoy doing?
I mean, yes and no. I feel like it's a bit of a hard one because I do feel happiest and probably most myself when I am really busy and doing all these things. I don't know if that says something about me or society in terms of, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I try to show both sides of it, you know. I do have my super hyper productive days where I am balancing everything, going to uni, doing the podcast, doing everything all at once, and people will comment being like, oh, how many hours do you have in a day, type of thing. But I try to show the really boring mundane days as well, where I'm sleeping in and reading my book until 12 o'clock and then
eating bars of chocolate.
Yeah, eating bars of chocolate in bed.
Yeah. Side note, Emma doesn't do that every night, I don't think. It's just a secret confession. So mindfulness is a big part of the game.
Yeah.
I say game, it shouldn't be referred to as such. I think life is important to have that mindfulness aspect and make sure that you're looking after yourself. You do that a lot. I listen to your podcast, I looked at stuff that you're posting online, everything from yoga, as I mentioned in the introduction, to you do a lot of reading, which is definitely a mindfulness practice. I guess what I want to know is, do you think it's important to encourage your followers, your listeners, to sort of practice that? Is that something that you are almost mindful of to encourage them to do?
100%, yeah. It's a huge part of my life, and I think, well, I've kind of grown up. I was really lucky to have grown up. My mum was always very into yoga and kind of, well, she was always into yoga from like a physical point of view. I don't think it was really ever with the mindfulness side of things.
Right.
But I think as I got older and started doing it more myself, as opposed to going with my mum, it became very much like a mindful thing. Or sorry, not a mindful thing, like a mindful practice.
Yeah.
And really, I just saw the benefits of it. And then when I actually went to India last summer and I did my yoga teacher training. And when I was there, so that was for 3 or 4 weeks, and every single morning you had to be up at 5:30, and we did an hour of meditation.
Wow.
And just seeing like the impact that has on you in such a short amount of time is crazy. And I always said I was going to keep it on and do it every day, but I haven't been able to keep up that practice. It's something I really, really need to get back into. But yeah, I am very like aware of having to. I make sure I incorporate something every day that means I've got my time to decompress and to be mindful and to just bring me back down, because sometimes you can just get carried away scrolling and don't set any time aside for yourself.
Definitely, 100%. And it's something that we should all sort of be encouraged to do from an early age. Not that we are in this country, especially.
Yeah,
I think
it's really not much of a thing here.
It isn't, is it?
Taught in schools or anything like that.
Okay, I want to talk about the next tune that you've picked. I think it's topical as we record this podcast because the book, Daisy Jones and the Six, and then also the TV show was just released. And the band you've picked, that was sort of based, Daisy Jones and the Six was sort of based on this band.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I've actually yet to watch Daisy Jones and the Six. I've read the book.
You've read the book.
But I need to watch it, yeah. But I've heard it was loosely based on this band, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And this is Dreams by Fleetwood Mac that you picked. Why have you picked this song?
This just reminds me of my mum. My mum used to be, still is obsessed with Fleetwood Mac, plays them absolutely non-stop. And I just think of her dancing in my kitchen when the song comes on.
No, that's a beautiful image, and it is a beautiful song. What a fantastic song.
What a tune.
It is such a good tune. A timeless classic, I think. Okay, so before we hit up the next part of this segment, which is going to be talking about you owning your brand and how you build something successful, and which is quite influential but also unique. I want to know what your peak of the week has been this week, Emma.
Oh, my peak of the week.
Yeah.
You know what? It's going to be this. Oh, no, wait. No, my peak of the week, I'm sorry, Joe.
Yeah?
My second peak of the week can be this, but my first peak of the week, it's got to be going to Leicester Square to see the billboard. Okay,
for sure. I will accept that. I can come a close second to that. And what has your pit of the week been?
My pit of the week? You know what? I always struggle to come up with my pit of the week on my podcast, which I think is probably a good sign.
Definitely.
What was my pit of the week this week?
Maybe the train story you told me earlier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, should I tell it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so on my train from Leeds to Liverpool yesterday, I forgot, because normally when I'm getting the train in England, it's usually to London, and it's a pretty chill train. There's never much drama, not much going on. I just get on with my work. It's pretty quiet. And I forgot coming to Liverpool, obviously, especially at the weekend.
Yep.
You're gonna have the stags, you're gonna have the hen parties,
yeah, man.
Just the whole lot.
The shebang.
Yeah. And there was a big group of like Yorkshire lads behind me, giving it everything. And at the end, when everyone stands up to get their bags before the train's about to stop. Yep. So we're all kind of queued up along in the middle, and this guy just farts on me like as I was pulling my suitcase down from above me, and I literally turned around, and he turned around at the same time, made eye contact with me, and you could tell he was so shocked he didn't realise I was stood there. And he just farted on me. So God. That was a great experience.
That's defo a pit of the week, I'd say. And I ask you that for those who don't know and who haven't listened to Emma's podcast. That's a segment in your podcast, isn't it? The peak and the pit of the week. Yeah,
that's something I've introduced kind of recently.
Okay.
I thought it would be nice to just be able to reflect on, a high and low of the week, and kind of normalize like the fact that everyone does have highs and lows in their week,
definitely.
No matter what's going on.
Makes people get to know you a little bit better, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's a good kind of conversation starting point to kind of introduce how your week's been and get into it.
But what I say, part of that, like building a podcast, building a brand, is having something unique like that. Do you find it hard to come up with those creative ideas or the different ways to make you stand out in what is fair to say quite a saturated market?
I mean, well, I wouldn't say Pit and Peak of the Week is very original.
Maybe not that, but
yeah, I mean, I always try to tell people that I think people are looking for this crazy niche that they need to find, like some really unheard of niche. But in reality, every single person is so different. Like everyone has different lived experiences, different preferences, different tastes and everything, and different interests. So I think you as a person, if you stayed authentic to yourself, that in itself is a niche. It's when you try and copy other people, that's when you're not going to be doing something original.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that. And the second part of this, I'd say, is how do you get to the point where you're working with brands or other organizations, like other content creators, to build something engaging? Like, I think that's something that people don't see the back end of. They just see the end product, a shiny, packaged, well put together piece of content, video, or I don't know, even in sometimes an actual physical item that people can buy. How do you go about working with some successful brands or content creators?
So I have a manager, but you don't need to have management necessarily to be able to do this. You can deal with brands directly yourself. I just don't really trust myself with any of that.
Why not?
It just involves a lot of reading through contracts and negotiating prices, things like that. And I just think that's better. That time is better taken off my hands, and I can focus it on, creating the actual content.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I have a manager who amazingly does all of that for me. But basically how it worked, obviously at the start I didn't have this, and I did content creation for a long time without getting paid for it, and it was definitely just a little hobby. So when I did start getting a bit of traction from brands, it was obviously very exciting. But you need to be careful to have like a clear idea of where you want to go, and in order to get there, the types of brands that align with you and kind of share the same values and will mean then that you will get on that path.
Yes.
So you don't want to. I don't know. I think people can see money coming in.
Like anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You want it to align with what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%.
Is there a dream collaborator?
Is there a dream collaborator? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you say?
There's a few.
Yeah.
Can I say?
Yeah. Who would you want to collaborate with?
There's a couple of like big makeup brands I would love to work with. Maybe like Fenty Beauty or Charlotte Tilbury maybe. And a couple of like vegan food brands. I'm very lucky in that I do have such a diverse like range of content and things that I do, where I've got a big list of brands I would love to work with. Right. So yeah, I can think of a good few, which is great.
Yeah. I think working with big brands, putting your name on something that you're proud of in that situation, where hundreds of thousands of people are going to see it, and it's something that you've actually cared about as well, is like a really cool thing. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, maybe like, I don't know, there's always creators going and making, I don't know, like alcohol and things like that. I think if I was ever going to make something, which is probably not very likely, I'd want to do something kind of wild or weird. Like something like sport related, I think. Something like wacky, like a frisbee. I don't know. A frisbee? Yeah. Is that weird? I don't know. I feel like you could make your own game that you could incorporate into your quiz night. Yeah, that is a show actually. Yeah. That's very you. Did you ever play the game where you like tie like a head mask on? Sort of like a swimming cap almost, and it had Velcro on it, and then you had those like fluffy balls that you throw at people's heads. No, I actually didn't, but you introduced me to a really good game, the Who's the Dude. Who's the Dude? Yeah, oh my god. Best game ever. The last time I was in Liverpool, that 2 years ago, that's when I got introduced to Who's the Dude in your house, and I went home, me and my family get it, and we played that non-stop that Christmas. Do you know what happened to my dude? He burst. He burst, yeah, twice. They burst quite easy. They do, for something that's supposed to be, yeah. It's a shame. It is a shame because he's so cool. I know. Yeah. He's a dude's like Pictionary, but with an inflatable doll, for those who don't know. Yeah, it is a great game. It's great. So I guess on the topic of working with brands, do you ever find it's difficult to maintain that creative control? So I think brands are actually quite quickly learning that
it's mutually beneficial for them to give you creative control on these things. I think at the start, I'm sorry, I say at the start, I don't know when that is I'm referring to, we'll say a few years ago. I think brands were a bit more like, this is the brief, this is what you have to do, these are the points you have to hit, and this is what you have to say, type of thing. And I think with the market just becoming so oversaturated, they now really value like really seamless, well integrated content. And as a result of that, I think a lot more brands now are just giving you full creative control, which is great as a creator.
I appreciate that, definitely. So quickly, could you, for people who don't know about this and just looking at that back end of the process, could you give me a quick run through of like how that works? Like, are you given a budget and then the brand's like, okay, you've got this X amount of money, we want you to talk about this product in this way, and then you just like do whatever you want with it? Or
so usually there's a bit of negotiation with in terms of like what you're actually going to produce. So say they come to agree with that you're going to do, let's say, a TikTok and 2 sets of Instagram stories. So all of that's agreed with the cost, and they'll give you like a bit of a brief in terms of what the product is or and what message they're trying to convey. But what's good now is that they're giving you the flexibility to kind of come up with how you want to convey that message and how you think your audience would kind of receive it best, I guess.
Fantastic. Okay, our next song is up next. Yes, it is. You picked Amy Winehouse.
I have.
Stronger Than Me. This is an empowering song.
Yeah, Amy Winehouse. I've always been an Amy Winehouse fan, but I think it was more so like I was a fan of her popular tunes, you know, like the Rehab and
Back to Black.
Yeah, that type of thing. And then one day I just decided I was obsessed with her and just started listening to every single song on repeat. And now she's just in every single one of my playlists, and I love her to bits. Yeah,
an amazing artist. Amy Winehouse there with Stronger Than Me. Fantastic tune. Yeah. I am really interested to know how you go about making a viral TikTok or Instagram post. Like, how the fuck do you do it?
I mean, I don't think anyone's going viral on Instagram these days.
No, that's
probably
true.
One of the hardest platforms to grow on.
Okay.
But TikTok as well. Like back in the day, everyone would blow up on TikTok. But
you say everyone.
I feel like now it's a lot harder. The algorithms have changed and everyone now has it. And it almost feels like everyone has a platform on TikTok because of everyone blowing up before. So it's like, I think it takes a lot more now. You can't just like jump on a trend and expect to wake up the next day and have 1,000 followers.
No.
It's just, you need to produce more content that's in line with you and that actually draws in your audience and isn't just like trending sounds.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Trending sounds and like tidying up videos, I guess. Like they kind of land well. But there's 2 things. If you're looking to promote a podcast, do you use something completely different and talk about your podcast in that content, or do you just like take a video from your podcast and like put that on TikTok?
I have a couple ways I promote my podcast. So if I've been able to film it like on video, then I'll be able to take chunks of that and use them on different platforms. So you can upload to YouTube, Instagram and TikTok, because YouTube have shorts now as well, which is good. And you can also do Instagram stories. So I'll do that. Or if I haven't been able to get the video footage, I will get like a little sound bite from the podcast, kind of screen record it, and I can put that on my stories. Or alternatively, I can just literally share a little screenshot of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely important to promote it and have like multimedia content, I guess, because it all kind of works in conjunction.
Yeah, for sure. I guess you need to be varied, otherwise people get bored real quick.
Yeah.
You've been making a video whilst you've been in Liverpool? Well, making a video, you've been filming little bits and bobs of
just
your time.
A little weekend in Liverpool, yeah.
Do you ever think that, and this, tell me if I'm being kind of intrusive here with this one, but do you ever feel like that's all you're thinking about if you have to do something like that? So you've got to take videos here, there and everywhere. You're not like, oh, that would make a good little snippet for my video.
I think it's always in the back of your mind, but I'm quite good at just taking my phone out, getting the 3-second clip, putting it away, not letting it be like a whole thing.
I noticed this yesterday. You're not on your phone much at all.
Yeah.
Like someone that's like whole thing is around social media and being online. You're barely on your phone.
Yeah, I never want to become the type of person that just meets up with their friends and sits on their phone the whole time.
No.
When I see that, it makes me
so-
cringe inside. Like it makes me think, when I see the other day when I was at the train station and I looked around and everyone sat in the seats were all just like head down on their phones, and I was like, I feel like we're in a simulation right now.
Yeah.
So it's really important to me to, even though I have to, well, not that I have to, but like I want to get all this footage, and that I'm not letting it take over the time there, and it's not becoming a whole thing with my friends where, oh, will you post for this or will you do this? It's just, get your 3 seconds, put it away, you're done.
And that goes into that honesty that we're going to talk about in a bit, and being real without sounding too cringy when I say that. Living in the moment and all that malarkey. But no, it is true. And I think your audience will appreciate that more. They'll probably be able to see through the sort of fake, staged, just doing it for the views kind of vibe. Yeah. Do it for the Vine. Although that's no longer a thing.
Remember Vine?
Yeah, of course, man. That was the OG. It was sad that went. I was like the elite level of social media, I think.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It was. I still watch those like Vine compilations on YouTube.
I know.
So good.
Sometimes I get lost in them as well.
Well, we were referencing one yesterday. I can't remember which one it was.
Mother trucker, dude. That was it.
Oh, the Hurricane Tortilla. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, they're so good. But someone who's new to the game with all this stuff, I'm learning from this conversation right now, which is the whole point. The whole reason that I kind of wanted to do this podcast is to learn from people that I think are successful and are doing cool stuff. So it's great to have the chance to learn from someone who is successful. I think because your podcast is so great and everything you do is so clean, so finished and well presented, it's interesting to hear your process behind that and how I just want to know, how do you go about planning such engaging but also like realistic and like conversational topics in your podcast? Like, how do you structure that hour and a half, 20 minutes, whatever it is?
So it's good in that I'm able to kind of go with my interests. So, if I decide tomorrow I'm really into, I don't know, dinosaurs. No, not dinosaurs, because I don't think anyone would listen to that. But you get what I'm saying. Like, if I decide tomorrow I'm interested in something, I can kind of bring that to the podcast in some way, I guess. So it's really nice how flexible it is, where it can go with my interests. But I kind of get a lot of my ideas through what I'm reading and what I'm consuming. Yeah. So whether that's like books, nonfiction or fiction, whether it's other podcasts I'm listening to, maybe like something I've watched recently, just all it takes is just like a little thing to spark that like initial idea in my head. And then once I've got that idea, I've written it down, I'll kind of stew over it for a while. And once I feel ready to talk about it, then we'll kind of get a little bit of a plan going. Right. And my plan isn't so structured, because I do want to just be able to talk naturally and not follow any type of script. But I kind of just have main points I want to hit, and I'll go away and do any further research I need to do if it's a topic that requires that. Sometimes it's not, if it's just me chatting shit about anything. But
okay, touching on that then, I mean, the researching is, you need to kind of have your facts ready, but a lot of what you talk about is your lived experience. Yeah. So you don't need to do much research other than wake up and live the life that you live. You talk about things which are sometimes quite difficult topics, like anxiety, mental health. You open up about a lot of your relationship status in some of your podcasts, and even like your relationship with alcohol. Not that you have a negative one, but I think that's such a pertinent conversation for our generation.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you find it hard to conversationalize these quite serious topics in a society which kind of puts a taboo on them?
I think that's a great thing about a podcast, is it's literally me in my bedroom, and I couldn't feel more comfortable talking about those topics in that space. So it's really nice to be able to break those taboos in a place that doesn't feel scary, but that still gets to reach the amount of people it does. I never put a huge amount of pressure on myself to, like, obviously they're hard topics to talk about sometimes, but as you said, I am kind of talking about them through my lens and my lived experience. So I think there's no wrong way to go about that.
True.
As long as I'm kind of reflecting on it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I wrote in my notes that you avoid preaching in your podcast. I didn't want to say that on this, but I'm saying it now. You talked about the sustainable fashion in a recent podcast. And what I'm trying to get at is you're as a vegan, someone that is very much, you do a lot of shops secondhand, thrifting, all that sort of thing. In the podcast, you were saying, I don't want to force people to think, everyone has different circumstances. Yeah. Everyone is at different point in their sort of sustainable journey, if you like.
Yeah.
You're not trying to make people feel bad for not doing that.
Yeah.
You're trying to make them feel good for doing it. Mm-hmm. And that's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think how you angle things can really depend on how people receive it. Yeah. If I was to sit there and do a full hour-long podcast talking about how terrible the fast fashion industry is and how bad this and that is and how you shouldn't be shopping from here and here, I don't think it's going to be received well. I don't think anyone's going to come away from that podcast feeling positive, feeling uplifted, feeling inspired. Mm-hmm. I think they're just going to be like, what's she, like, fuck her kind of thing.
It's a negative thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You turn something that is negative into a positive, and that is what you do consistently throughout the podcast. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a difficult task. I don't think it's easy to make something like negative to seem positive.
Yeah, and I think I probably when I was younger definitely wasn't capable of doing that. Like I reckon when I first went vegan and I was that militant, like psycho vegan shouting at my parents being like, what? Literally crying that there was meat in the fridge. But I think everyone has their initial crazy period, I think, when you get into anything. Yeah. You know, like the same way when you first maybe get into feminism and you hate every single man in your life for a couple of months, but you get over it and then you live with it in a way that's more
realistic.
Yeah, realistic, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And that's the beauty of that's the beauty of the podcast as well. I think the format that it is, you've not got the audience reaction right at you. Mm-hmm. So what you put out there, they're going to respond to it secondhand in a way. Yeah. It's not like a live reaction. And you don't necessarily have the same relationship with you post something online as like a opinion piece. Like on an Instagram post, TikTok, the comments will be
there
in your face. But in a podcast, people don't necessarily react to and have a live commentary on it in the same way. Yeah. Because they absorb the whole thing within the context. Yeah. Which is potentially an hour long, and then they reflect on that. Yeah. So I think things can get taken out of context very easily on social media, but
100%.
When people listen to long form, having a discussion, it's a more healthy way to absorb that information.
Yeah, I agree, and especially if you give the time to both sides of the argument, and yeah,
and you do that very well actually. And I did like the sustainable fashion. Sustainability is something I'm passionate about, and I do think that the way that you discussed it was appropriate and logical, rather than being like, yeah, fuck you, you shop at Shein or whatever, and then it's like, well, no, some people have to. No, don't have to, some people do, and that. But this is an alternative which is actually better, in my opinion, because
I think going about it by shaming people, I don't think it's going to achieve anything.
Definitely not.
If anything, it'll make people shop more in spite of it.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, this is, I think, your final song. Oh, no, second to last song, sorry. Okay. Rihanna.
Oh, Rihanna, my queen.
Yes, she is.
Rihanna is like, that everyone has their one person that they're just like, they'd pay, doesn't matter how much money to go see in concert. She is like that for me. And Meg.
I do know
Meg. Yeah, me and Meg are obsessed with Rihanna. We just play her nonstop in the car. And
have you been to the Rihanna tree in between Bangor and Belfast? Have you seen that?
Oh, no, I haven't. When she filmed her video in Northern Ireland. No, I haven't seen that.
I've seen that
the
tree.
Farmer came and kicked her out.
Yeah, because she was kind of like scantily clad and running about the field, which I rate. That's sick.
And her performance recently at the Super Bowl, did you see it?
Yeah, well, I didn't see the whole thing, but I've seen like the highlights kind of thing.
It's incredible.
Yeah, she's a legend.
Yeah, she's
But this one, Rihanna, Love on the Brain, fantastic tune. What a fantastic choice. Rihanna is a legend.
She really is. Her and A$AP Rocky are just my
oh my god,
dream.
I know. A$AP Rocky's cool as fuck, to be fair.
Yeah. She's pregnant.
I know.
With another baby.
I know. They are the new power couple, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got the luckiest little babies in the world.
Yeah, I think so. Cool parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the final segment now is, we've touched on it a lot throughout the podcast, is like the honesty that you exude, the messages that you talk about and the way that you engage with your audience. But I wanted to know, you ask your audience to submit things. So talking about the Embarrassing Sex Stories podcast, for example, which is very funny, but it's also quite like those taboo topics that we don't talk about enough. And it makes you feel way more comfortable in knowing that other people go through weird shit too.
Yeah, 100%.
Why is it important that you have that kind of dialogue with your listeners or your followers? Like how does that contribute to the successes of the podcast, but also how does that benefit them?
Well, I think, as you said, it does just normalize these conversations.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to note as well that like this stuff benefits me. I feel like a lot of the time people think creators are just, I don't know, just you're like a lot of these questions you're like saying as if, oh, how does it benefit your listeners? But like this benefits me too as well. Like they benefit me and they help me and they send me their advice when I tell about like things that are going on in my life in the podcast. And I just feel like I have such a good relationship with them, and I think that honesty is what enables that and like what allows people to feel comfortable to come to me with these things and to be able to have these discussions in my Instagram DMs and everything.
That's fantastic. And that two-way support network.
2 ways, definitely.
Yeah. And you're listening, you're using their experiences as well as they're using yours.
And like recently I opened up about my kind of performance anxiety and how I literally nearly have a panic attack anytime I have to do like a uni presentation or anything, which is ridiculous because it could be in front of 5 people. But I was kind of talking about that, and like the amount of messages I got from people giving me so many recommendations, I was able to do a whole episode on it and share that knowledge with everyone else.
Fantastic.
So like you just are able to see from that one episode how much that helped me first of all, and then everyone else that was able to benefit from that.
That's like the goal, isn't it? Like you're basically creating a community which is helping other people have similar struggles to you. Yeah. And it's free to access.
I know, it's such a nice little community we've created.
and obviously you're not a professional in this stuff, which you do say, you have said, like, this is just my experience, which you talked about. But yeah, I think that's amazing. Emma, that's like it's a really positive thing that you're doing, and it's great to see that people are benefiting from it. Our final song is probably one of the artists of our recent times, which I've fallen, well, not in love with, but she's I don't want to say too much there. Jorja Smith, an amazing
she's
performer.
An amazing artist, yeah.
And this one is Be Honest, which is nicely going to end that section. Why have you picked such a profound tune?
I love Jorja Smith. She's kind of what got me into jazz music as well. I like some of her jazzier tunes too. And Be Honest just really resonates with me.
Fantastic.
It's groovy.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, Emma, that was the Jorja Smith tune that you picked, and that has wrapped up our interview.
What an interview.
Thank you so much for coming on Foot in the Door. Thank
you for having me.
That's okay. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you, and I've actually learnt so much from our conversation.
Yeah, it's been great.
In true Foot in the Door fashion, I have got you a present. This is a book by Casper to Kyle called The Power of Ritual.
Oh wow!
And I think
thanks so much.
That's okay. Take a look. I think
this looks very me.
Yeah, based on our conversations that we've had today about well-being and fitting things into your schedule, being busy but not taking that too far to the point where it's like not enjoyable, I guess. I think it will be useful for you.
Yeah, definitely be a podcast episode coming up about this book.
Okay, I look forward to hearing it. Emma, I wish you all the best of luck with everything you're doing. And thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I had so much fun.